Where's my coffee?
Good morning.
Good morning. Where's my coffee?
Look at them, perfectly sane, perfectly normal. They wake up at the same time, drink their overpriced, lukewarm lattes, follow every unwritten rule of social etiquette, and die without ever making a ripple in the ocean of existence. We call this sanity. We call this being a functional member of society. But let me ask you a dangerous question. If this is what it means to be sane, then why is the world so profoundly miserable? Why is the sane path leading us to an epidemic of burnout, hollow eyes, and spirits that feel like they've been ran over by a corporate lawnmower? Welcome to Majnun. Today, we aren't talking about clinical madness. We are talking about the holy madness, the kind of insanity that built the pyramids, painted the Sistine Chapel, and split the atom. I'm going to convince you that your inner madman is the only thing standing between you and a life of crushing mediocrity. Let's start with the science of why you're so boring. In psychology, there's a concept called social conformity. Back in the 1950s, a guy named Solomon Asch conducted an experiment that should honestly terrify you. He put a student in a room with actors. He showed them lines of different lengths and asked which one was longest. The answer was obvious. But when the actors all pointed to the wrong line, 75% of the real participants eventually agreed with the lie. Why? Because your brain is a coward. Biologically, we are wired for the tribe. "50,000 years ago, being different meant you were a liability. If the tribe kicked you out, you weren't finding yourself in the wilderness. You were being eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. Evolution rewarded the followers, the quiet ones, the ones who didn't rock the boat. But guess what? The tigers are dead."
Social influencer, Ma. Social influencer.
All you do is take.
They've been replaced by HR departments, LinkedIn influencers, and HOA meetings. The biological fear is still there, but the threat is gone. You are walking around with software designed to hide in a cave, while living in a world that only rewards those who dare to step out of it. Think about our modern education system. It's essentially a factory for sanity. We take brilliant, imaginative children who talk to imaginary friends and see magic in a puddle of mud, and we spend 20 years telling them to sit down, shut up, and color inside the lines. We prescribe pills for the hyperactive ones because they have too much energy for a fluorescent-lit cubicle. We call it ADHD. Nietzsche might have called it the spirit of the dancer. We are pathologizing the very traits that make us human because they aren't productive for the machine. We've traded our ecstasy for efficiency, and we wonder why we feel like ghosts in our own skins. Enter Friedrich Nietzsche, a man who had a mustache that could kill a small bird and a brain that shattered the foundation of Western thought. Nietzsche hated the herd. He looked at the sane people of his time and saw last men, creatures who wanted nothing but comfort, security, and a little bit of pleasure before they died. Nietzsche's madman is a famous figure in his writing. This madman runs into a marketplace in the morning, carrying a lantern, crying out, "I seek God! I seek God!" The townspeople laughed. They were civilized. They didn't need God, but they didn't have anything to replace him with either. The madman wasn't crazy, he was a prophet. He realized that if we don't become the creators of our own values, we will remain sheep. Most people are terrified of this. They'd rather have a boss tell them what to do, a government tell them what to think, and an algorithm tell them what to buy, because the alternative, true freedom, looks a lot like madness. And then there was Diogenes of Sinope. Now this guy was the ultimate Majnun of ancient Greece. Diogenes lived in a large ceramic jar in the marketplace. He ate like a dog, mocked emperors, and once told Alexander the Great to move out of his sunlight. When people called him crazy, he'd bark at them. Literally. He walked through the streets in broad daylight with a lamp, claiming he was looking for an honest man. Was he insane?
I will go alone into Rome. If I do not return by sunset, then let the army enter Rome.
Or was he the only one sane enough to realize that Greek society was a massive theatrical performance of ego and vanity? Diogenes knew that to be truly free, you have to be willing to be the madman of the city. He didn't want your status, your gold, or your approval. He just wanted the sunlight. How many of us can say the same? We are so busy building our personal brands that we've forgotten how to sit in the sun. Then we have Carl Jung. Jung didn't want you to be a good person, he wanted you to be a whole person. He introduced the concept of the shadow. Your shadow contains everything you've hidden from society, your rage, your wild creativity, your weirdness, your madness. When you try to be perfectly sane, you lock your best parts in a basement. You become a flat version of yourself. Think about the greatest artists. Was Van Gogh sane when he painted the stars as swirling vortexes of fire? Was Nikola Tesla sane when he talked to pigeons and envisioned a world of wireless energy? Of course not. They were mad by the standards of their neighbors, but their madness was just the parts of their psyche that were too big to fit into a 9-to-5 cubicle. Your weird hobbies, your irrational passions, your crazy ideas, that's not junk. That's the gold buried in your shadow. In the East, there is the legend that gives this channel its name. Majnun. He wasn't a fool. He was a man whose love for Layla was so immense that it shattered his ego. He left the city and went into the desert. He talked to animals. He wrote poetry in the sand. People called him Majnun, the one possessed by a jinn. But who was truly possessed? The people in the city, possessed by the need for status and tribal war.
Oh, it's love, it's love, it's love, 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 love.
Or the man in the desert who was possessed by a love that saw the divine in everything. This is the Majnun paradox. To find your greatest truth, you must be willing to look insane to those who live in a lie. Modern society is a cult of sanity. It's a cult that demands you be predictable, taxable, and easily marketed to. It wants you to be a consumer, not a creator. When you start following your intuition, when you start chasing a dream that doesn't make financial sense, the cult will try to fix you. Don't let them. Let's talk about the comedy of our optimized lives. We have apps to track our sleep, apps to track our calories, and apps to tell us when to drink water. We are so afraid of being inefficient that we've turned our lives into a series of loading bars. If Albert Einstein was on Twitter today, he'd be ratioed into oblivion for his hair and his lack of hustle culture. If Socrates was on TikTok, he'd be canceled for gaslighting people with his questions.
What is justice?
We are obsessed with being correct and safe, but safety is a slow death. The most important moments of your life won't happen when you're being safe. They happen when you take a leap that everyone else calls crazy. So how do we apply this? First, embrace the absurd. Realize that most social rules are just collective hallucinations. You're worried about what your neighbor thinks. Your neighbor is worried about his lawn. In 100 years, both of you will be gone. Second, listen to the shadow, that crazy project you've been putting off because it's not practical. Do it. The world has enough practical people. We need more Arabic meme, Arabic jeem, Arabic noon, Arabic wow, Arabic noon s. Third, reject the herd. If everyone is heading in one direction, at least pause and ask why. Usually, the herd is just following the back of the head in front of them. The world is a very loud, very crowded room where everyone is trying to convince you to be a ghost of yourself. They want you to be sane. They want you to be quiet. But I am here to tell you that the fire is in the desert. You can stay in the city, drink the lukewarm latte, and be sane until the day you die. Or you can embrace the Majnun within. It will be lonely. It will be terrifying. People will whisper about you. But for the first time in your life, you'll be able to look in the mirror and see a human being instead of a mannequin. Welcome to the world of Majnun, where madness is the beginning of insight. If you're tired of being normal, if you're ready to seek the truth in the desert, then stay here with us. Subscribe and join the quest for the holy madness. I'll see you in the next episode, somewhere beyond the borders of reason.